Who's Scruffy-Looking?
Hello there, all you womp rats and weakways, and welcome to the Scruffy-Looking podcast, the show where we talk about everything related to that galaxy far, far away. My name's Dakota Hayden, and alongside me is my co-host and dad, Mark Hayden Jr. How's
Hello.
it going, Pops?
Good. How you doing this week?
Doing good myself. So, for today's episode, we're talking all things related to Darth Vader.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the unfortunate news that we got earlier this month, hearing about his passing, that
James Earl Jones. Yep.
James Earl Jones passing, wow, what a pillar, and it's sad to see him go, and when I saw the news, I was kind of taken back for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something you always, as people get up there in years, you kind of in the back of your head expect, but whenever it hits, it's always just it's always just hard.
Yeah. I think 93 years old. He lived a long life, and we appreciate and thank him for all the ways he entertained us over the years in many different ways. So.
Yeah, what a legacy of a career. He had so many big roles, and like the two top hitters that of course come to mind is of course Darth Vader and pretty much every iteration of Star Wars. I think there might have been a couple dubs with other voice actors, but he was I'd say 90% of anything Darth Vader related, that's his voice. And the other one that comes to mind is, didn't he do Mufasa for The Lion King? Yeah. So just some big roles that have influenced generations, and we're gonna miss him.
Yeah, and well, can you imagine anybody else doing Darth Vader's voice? I mean, it's just Darth Vader wouldn't be Darth Vader without James Earl Jones' voice.
100%. I Lincoln, he's one of those voice actors that he is the character. To replace that character's voice just doesn't sound right, and it doesn't feel right. I was thinking earlier today that I would consider him another voice actor that I considered in the same realm as Peter Cullen, the voice of Optimus Prime. Those are guys that they are the character. They brought them into life, and it's larger than life that they've performed these characters, and you can't replace that. Now, it's bittersweet to me, but I know that there was a contract, I think his estate or something like that, or he approved of it before he passed, that they could keep using his voice and AI to enhance it and whatnot. I think that's awesome. I think that's a great way to preserve his legacy and to kind of just cement him for the character of Darth Vader. A little bittersweet that it's not going to be actually him doing the voice.
I kind of wish Disney you don't want to overuse Darth Vader. You want it to be like a special occasion when you see him. Yeah. But I kind of wish they would have done at least something else with him. Even a Vader standalone movie, or just a show on Disney Plus. It didn't have to be like a full 8-episode series or something, or at least did something special, with that character. I mean, they still can, but it's kind of like, well, it's not going to be the same, since it's just without him actually being here, kind of takes something away from it, at least for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I will admit, though, consistently, even during the Lucasfilm era and then selling out to Disney and then Disney taking on the mantle of Star Wars, be it what your opinion is on the projects that Disney has tackled, I do think consistently throughout what they bought Lucasfilm in 2012, right? Or around there? Was it 2014? Somewhere
12,
around
I think it was 12, yeah.
Since then, I think they've done a really great job with Darth Vader's character. I think in almost every iteration that I can think of that comes to mind, he's kept that mystique about him. He's kept that seriousness about him. And for the most part, you only really see him in the big events. Of course, us watching Star Wars, we see him all the time, but that's because we're watching the big events in the galaxy.
Right, yeah.
So that's always been appreciative of me as a fan of Darth Vader. I do enjoy how they've kept his character pretty consistent so far. Obviously that could change depending on the projects that they have upcoming, but I hope that they at least do him justice continuously from here on outward.
Absolutely.
So I had a little blast from the past. I found a picture, and I'm going to go ahead and show it on the screen now, of myself when I first met Darth Vader when I
Oh,
was 7
awesome.
years old at the
Oh,
Revenge of
yep.
the Sith premiere
Yep.
back in the day. So that was a fun time.
Yeah. Can I tell a little story of that?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
So when I took Dakota to see Revenge of the Sith for the first time, he wore his little Darth Vader outfit. And when we pulled up to the theater, we saw those people out there in costume. There's Darth Vader. I think there's a Tusken Raider. There's an Imperial officer. And I think Darth Revan, too, I think maybe.
I think so.
Was
I think so.
There. So I didn't think to bring a camera. So I ran back across the street, and I ran into a gas station, got a little disposable camera. And when we walked up there, I wish I could have recorded it. When we walked up there, I heard that there's a lady dressed as an Imperial officer saw you, and she's like, everybody, look at this. Because, I mean, you were cute. You had your helmet on, your cape, the whole shebang. And you went walking up there, and Darth Vader walked up, and he looked down at you, and you got behind me. You were actually a little scared. And then when they talked to you, and you realized, look, you came out, and he reached down and shook your hand. It was the cute. I wish I could have had a picture. I don't think I got a picture of that, did I?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
But I wish I could have videoed it because it's so perfect. But he reached down and shook your hand. You reached up and shook his hand, and then it was really neat. And
that was really cool.
I know when I was a kid and saw Empire Strikes Back when it first came out, I had to use the restroom, and Paul took me out to the concession stand, go to the restrooms, and on the way back, a guy in Darth Vader's costume and a stormtrooper was there, and that just blew my little 7-year-old mind away. Oh my goodness! It was funny because Darth Vader he walked up to me and looked down at me, and I'm looking up at him, and he reached back and he handed me a box of M&Ms, and it was kind of like I'm kind of like, do you have any Reese's Cups? but no, just when you're that stuff's larger in life to you when you're that age, and getting to see somebody like that, it just really makes really an impact on you.
It does. It really does. That's cool. Also, come to the dark side. We have candy.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right.
That's so cool. Yep. That's so cool. So in that realm of retrospect, I know we were tossing back and forth ideas for this episode of the show. When you first saw Darth Vader, of course, when you saw Star Wars at the first time, there was none of this backlog of lore or anything like that to explain his character. So you saw the raw first impression of Darth Vader on the screen. What was your initial reaction to seeing him as a character on screen? Just
kind of awe when he comes through that door, and he just, whoa, what's this? And just the aura of him just was an awe. And like you said, we didn't have the internet and stuff like back then. I honestly, until Empire Strikes Back, when he revealed he was Luke's father, I wasn't actually sure he was even a human. I thought maybe he was some kind of like android robot thing. He had the chest box and all that on there. So that kind of, until I saw Empire Strikes Back, I play with my action figures and stuff. I don't think I ever considered. Well, I consider, but I was like, well, is he a man? Is he a robot? Some kind of combination. And it kind of turned out he was kind of a combination. But that him walking through that opening there, the doorway, and the Tantive 4, it's probably why I've been a Star Wars fan more like just the my little mind seeing that, just being whoa,
I think for me personally, the initial reaction, like the timeline that I was in, the first Star Wars, the big Star Wars thing that I remember vividly, so I was probably around 7 at the time, is when Revenge of the Sith came out. So like I'm seeing, A New Hope through Return of the Jedi all in one sitting essentially, and I see Darth Vader as a whole, and I feel like I missed out on having that mystique on who this guy is. All I knew is he's a bad guy, and like keeping that tone throughout was really like enamoring to me, because I thought like, wow, he's like, I wouldn't want to be stuck in a room with that guy. And as I grew up and got a little older and learned about Anakin Skywalker and his character, he became more of a tragic villain throughout the course of the story, which I think that's essentially the Anakin Skywalker's entire story arc is the tragic turn, but then the redemption at the end. So not only did I have an appreciation for the villain that Darth Vader is, but I had an appreciation for the story that was told of where he fell to the dark side. It was a tragic fall. He did all this stuff, but then there was redemption at the end. I think that, more than anything, is what stuck to me and what made me really enjoy the character. And that's why he's one of my top, favorite Star Wars characters of all time. And that, and just the attitude that they tell with his character in almost any story that he's featured in, is the seriousness behind it. Like, when you see him walk on the screen, something big's going to happen every time. And I think that hype behind him also drove me to be like in awe of this character. There's some serious stuff going down if Vader enters the room. So I think that's my initial take for him.
And you can't duplicate things. When something's happened, it's hard to do something with the same impact. I feel like that's kind of what the prequel trilogy and the sequel trilogy kind of lacked. Now, the prequel trilogy, when you first started seeing the images and you saw Darth Maul, even though it's not, you can't compare the two. Yeah. But the excitement for me was, I was like, whoa, what's this guy going to be? Yeah. And then when he gets killed at the end of it, it's like, that's one thing. I mean, it's a whole other topic. If I go back and change something about the prequels, if you would have kept Darth Maul alive through all three of them and built that character up, he'd never been Darth Vader. But, I think that's something lacking. And then the sequel trilogy and Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, it's like they tried to capture the same thing over again. And it just didn't work for me. Yeah. I like the idea of it and stuff, just the execution of it didn't come, for me personally, just wasn't there. But I think that's something the two other trilogies lack, is the bad guy that's just you're in awe of. Yeah. No, I completely agree. So, in line of talking about our initial reactions to seeing Darth Vader for the first time, we mentioned earlier that we wish that we could have gotten a standalone movie or show based on Darth Vader. If you were to be the writer, the creative director, the whatever, and you had the task of make something about Darth Vader, what would you like to see? And it could be a movie iteration, a TV show, heck, a video game, whatever you want. You got the control. What do you want to see? Well, I think everybody has wanted to see a Darth Vader, like during the Purge era, hunting down Jedi. So I would like that if done right. I was trying to think of something that maybe have a little more substance to it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I know they've handled this in the old Legends, and in the current comics they covered it too. But I would like a series that takes place right after A New Hope, and maybe started off with, at the end of New Hope, you see Vader speeding off in his TIE fighter. Started off with him landing that TIE fighter, reporting to the Emperor what's happened, Yeah. And then started building on that, how he starts figuring out who Luke actually is. And in the old comics, they had where they captured an X-Wing pilot and he revealed the name, and then in the new comics they actually had Boba Fett find it out and tell Vader. But it would have been kind of neat seeing him, maybe a story of him trying to find out, and then the payoff is at the end, is maybe it ends with somebody finally telling him the name. Oh, that's Skywalker, and him just be like Skywalker and have a big dramatic thing there. Yeah. So I think maybe there's a little. I'm all for the Purge thing. I think that'd be cool. I mean, I love Rogue One when he's going just tearing through the Rebel fleet troopers and stuff. But maybe something that would have a little bit more story, a little more depth you could go into as far as like character building and stuff like that. For sure. I think I'd like to see that story told. I like that. I've never thought of telling that kind of side of the story, but I like that. I like that a lot. Maybe it even starts showing the little kinks of the good Anakin still in there when he starts realizing. You could even do flashback things, and I know they've done this in comics and stuff, do flashback things with him and Padme.
Yeah.
Maybe, if you could have Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen do like some like stuff you didn't see in the other movies, but just show moments of them together and stuff, and add to the tragedy of, this was a really, really good guy and he made a poor choice and stuff like that. So
that'd be good lore building, character developing stuff, and I like that. And it also adds a bit more. There was already enough in there in the story of how Darth Vader turned back to the light by the time Return of the Jedi came around, by the end of the Return of the Jedi. But stuff like that just add, if they told that kind of story and we saw like little inklings of Anakin still in there, like the good still in there, that just reinforces it even more. Like, you don't need it, but if we got it, that'd be just like nice icing on the cake, Personally, I would definitely enjoy a Darth Vader Purge thing. I was always a fan of that Purge comic as a kid. That Dark Horse, I think it was just called The Purge, wasn't it, or something?
I think it might have been, yeah. The one where he lured all the Jedi together onto that one planet. And,
yeah. That I love that comic, and it'd be so easy to place it because we have the Kenobi series. All you have to do is put that right before that. You got plenty of time.
Yep.
To weave that in there. But, I mean, it's not anything different than what we've already seen before. So, to do something different, I had a thought. I don't know what kind of medium you could put it in. I don't know if you could do it as a TV show or a movie. I thought it might be an interesting video game concept, personally. But, like I mentioned before, Darth Vader's kind of like a big player. We see him all the time because we're seeing all these big events that are happening in the galaxy that he is actively involved in because, he's hunting down the Jedi. There's big rebel insurgencies popping up that he's got to squander and stuff like that. I want to see some story taking place of, say, that a story that follows maybe an outcasted Jedi or something like that. Maybe it doesn't have to be a Jedi. Maybe he just has to be a powerful Force-sensitive user or something like that. And then I want it to be almost horror-based because to the general public of the galaxy, from how I've always interpreted, Darth Vader's kind of the boogeyman. He's kind of a name you throw in rumors around, but nobody actually knows who he is or if he's even real because nobody's supposed to see him unless something serious is happening. So I want a story that takes place with that perspective. And then all of a sudden this Force-sensitive user is being hunted down by Darth Vader. And have that be terrifying. Like, have elements of like a horror story of like you're almost like an alien versus, well, not an alien versus predator, but in a sense, like the predator is like a predator is tracking you down. And you have to escape. You don't know who you're up against, what you're up against, what ability he's got on his side, because as far as you know, he's a myth.
I like that. Yeah, that'd be intriguing.
I mean, it'd be kind of a telltale, like, oh, obviously at some point Vader's going to find you and kill you, obviously. But I think it would be cool if you could frame something like that. I don't know if that'd be best as like a movie or a show or a video game or something like that. I think having that kind of framework to have it be some kind of like almost horror story-esque of where you're being tracked down, you need to escape. How do you do that? And then when you think you've escaped, he's there because he knows how to get to you and he's just this non-stop presence.
I like that. Would you have, let's say it doesn't have to be a Jedi, but a character that maybe knew Anakin Skywalker, and for an added little twist thing at the end, have, I don't know how you do it, but have like where Vader takes off the helmet and the person realizes it's Anakin Skywalker before he gets killed by it. Yeah,
that would be intense. Yeah. That'd be cool.
Yeah, like during the dialogue at the end is like, you're nothing. There's this Jedi, the great Jedi named Anakin Skywalker, and you're the opposite of everything he ever was, and
then it's revealed that's who he was. That would be good. It can almost be someone who's discovered, because I think how it's interpreted, how the majority of the galaxy who knew of the Jedi had it interpreted that Anakin was killed. I don't think they necessarily knew that he turned to the dark side, but they knew he was killed.
They just assumed
somehow.
he was dead.
So that could be something too, like someone's investigating like how did this great Jedi warrior get killed? And then obviously Darth Vader's not wanting to get that information out to the general public, so he's hunting down this journalist at that point.
You could kind of do like unsolved mystery. You know, what happened to Anakin Skywalker, and this person's like trying to track down, and he starts discovering too much, and that's when
yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good.
You ought to write that.
That'd be interesting. I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so speaking of things that we would have, or projects that we would like to see with the Darth Vader character, you brought up an interesting thing when we were talking about topics to discuss. Is there a scene or a series that we've already seen that's been released that you would either add or delete Darth Vader's presence in it? Like you thought it didn't necessarily work to have him in there, so you would have taken him out, or you would have rewrote it how he was in there differently.
Okay. Actually, as far as adding them to him, I kind of wish Revenge of the Sith, I know you see him briefly at the, when he gets, I kind of wish when he became Darth Vader would have been a little bit earlier in the movie, and we would got to see more of him in the armor, actually do something in the armor besides stare off at the Death Star. As far as take him out, I wouldn't take him, you can't take him out of the movie, but there's a scene I would take out.
Yeah.
And if you hear interviews with George Lucas now, he kind of regrets, like Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, that one part in there is too intense for family viewing.
Yeah, for sure.
So when I saw Empire Strikes Back when I was a kid, that scene where they torture Han.
Oh.
Scared the living daylights out because I didn't understand. I was little. I didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And even though Darth Vader was I knew Darth Vader was a bad guy, I didn't understand. And I'm going to reveal a little secret here. Honestly, that scene scared me so bad, I did not watch Empire Strikes Back completely all the way through until I was 18 years old.
Oh wow!
Again, because I love Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And I love the duel between Luke. So what I would do is, like, if my family every once in a while might watch it, or if I was watching it, I'd go get something to eat or leave the room when that part comes, because it traumatized that little 6-year-old me so bad. I can't. And then finally, as I I was like, I gotta watch. I'm okay with it now, but 6-year-old me would have took that scene out of there.
Yeah.
You could have done it how they showed Chewie being tortured, and then Leia, they just implied, brought her back. You could have done something similar. So to me, that's kind of like Lucas had a middle thing for the middle movie in his trilogies. There's a scene in there that's maybe a little too intense for...
Yeah.
And watching it now, it's like, well, it ain't nothing compared to what you see in other things. But when you're little,
that's a big impact.
That really impacted me. That really, I don't know, like scared, just kind of freaked me out. So
I remember as a kid, and it's just the little things like that too. And like you rewatch it, and it's no big deal. But I mean, for me as a kid, I remember. I'm sure you remember that one scene in Attack of the Clones where Jango shoots Zam with that poison dart, and she changes back to the changeling. I couldn't watch that. Like every time that scene would play, I'd have to look away or something like that, and it took me a while before I could just watch it.
When when we took you to see Attack of the Clones for the first time, you were such a big Jango Fett fan going into that movie, and I'd seen it before you saw it, and I knew what happened to him. Me and your mom made sure you were distracted, because when I told her what happened, I said, I don't know, because you're little, I don't know how he's going to react to that. So we made sure you were distracted during that part, when that part happened, until we thought, you'd be a little bit older because you were all about, you had that Jango Fett action figure, it had the string on it.
I remember that.
And you play, and I was like, oh my goodness. It would have been one thing if he would have got shot or something like that, but how he got beheaded and stuff.
Decapitated.
Like, that might be a little too intense for young Dakota to see at this point. So.
Am I remembering right? Did they make an action figure that had a magnetic
Yep,
head.
he had a magnetic head
so
that would
you
come
could
on.
knock his head off of the action figure.
Yep. Uh-huh.
That's, looking back on it, that's kind of morbid.
Well, then they had the. You remember they had the Anakin from Attack of the Clones that had the magnetic arm that could come on.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. Some things that have been made of toys. You know, I just spoke of the interrogation scene with Han Solo in Empire Strikes Back. Yeah. They made an action figure of Han Solo with that machine, and it's like when I first saw that revealed, I was like, wow, what a. And one thing that's always been neat about Star Wars collectibles, you know, they cover everything, the background aliens and all that. And it's like, wow, what a crazy thing to make an action figure of, you know. Well,
I guess there's no shortage of stuff like that, because I remember specifically as a kid, we had a Tauntaun that you could take its guts out of from the scene from Empire Strikes Back, and we had an Acklay that you can pop his guts out from Attack of the Clones. Those wild what they put in toys. I don't think they'd really do that anymore these days, but that's crazy. But completely sidebar. I forgot what we were talking about for a second.
Oh, if you could take Vader in and out of a...
So, like I mentioned before, I think Disney's done a pretty decent job overall keeping Vader consistent with his character. There's not too many places that I would have necessarily taken him out. But I did think of something that I remember it bothering me when I saw it. And this might be a little controversial to say. And I got other things to say about this series anyway, because there was things that I liked and that I didn't like, but this is one of the things I didn't like. So the Kenobi series, the first time that Vader and Obi-Wan interacted, I forget the planet that they were on, but when they dueled each other and they had that big fire spread and everything like that, that seemed so sudden. That seemed way too early to me for them to have that interaction together. I loved the shot of him just walking through that village. It was night. He snaps that guy's neck.
Yeah, I loved.
But that scene for when they dueled, I just thought, this is too early. Yeah. Like, I would have rathered it just been a build up to the end.
And it was kind of awkward to me too. It just, you know, I like the Kenobi series. There's things about it, and one of the things I would tweak while we're on this subject is when he came walking around that corner down that street. How on earth do you not have the Imperial March or some form of the Imperial March
just
playing?
Yeah.
That would have added so much to that scene, and I don't think I would have had Obi-Wan engage him there. I think I would have had him see him.
Yeah.
And then, you know, got the heck out of there. Matter of fact, kind of building on that, in the old Legends stories, Obi-Wan found out Anakin Vader was still alive. He was in the cantina and they had like a holo screen on.
Yeah.
And they showed Darth Vader and referred to something like Emperor Palpatine's new enforcer Darth Vader. And like Obi-Wan's like, what? And he like faints and stuff.
Yeah.
And then eventually the spirit of Qui-Gon appears to him, and you know how Luke asked Yoda, is is Darth Vader my father?
Yeah.
He asked Qui-Gon, is Darth Vader Anakin? Is that Anakin?
Yeah.
And Qui-Gon tells him it is. I didn't like how Reva was the one that revealed to Obi-Wan that Darth Vader's still alive. How I would have done it, I would have had Obi-Wan have no idea who that was, just it was a Sith that needed to be stopped.
Yeah.
And when they had their last duel there on that moon, had him, when he struck Vader and cracked that helmet, him realize right then that was how powerful would that have been?
Him, so he
powerful. Thinks he's just stopping the Sith, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, it's that would have really got you.
That 100%. I wish. Yeah, like you said, the overall in the Kenobi series, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but there are things that I really, really like, but there are things that I really, really didn't like. But that, of course, that's a subject for another episode and stuff. But yeah, that instance right there, that first initial contact duel that they had right there, it seemed way too early to me, and especially the part where, you know, Vader toying with his opponent is a consistent thing. We've seen it multiple times. But this is Obi-Wan we're talking about. Like, he's got an intense hatred for this for this man that used to be his brother. He left him to die and burn on Mustafar to just, toss him into the fire and then let him escape. Like, are you telling me his suit, first of all, is definitely fire resistant? So you're telling me he couldn't walk through that flame and go grab them while they were escaping, or use the Force to extinguish it?
I know he's probably got nightmares back to Mustafar, but it's is he really standing there going, "Oh no, it's the fire again! I can't go past the." Yeah, that whole. Yeah, I loved when he, like I said, loved when he walked down the street and you said, snapping the necks and just being evil.
Yeah.
But from there, have Obi-Wan, like I said, you see him, you flee. Oh, who is this Sith? Who's this Dark Lord? And then, that just, like you said, there's Obi-Wan. I picture Vader when he sees Obi-Wan for the first time, since he's so enraged. He was way too, calm there. I imagine, when he attacks Luke in the corridor and the Empire Strikes Back, and he's just wild, just that's how I see him, getting so full of hatred, and that he's just almost reckless and coming after him.
The scene where they were escaping from that planet and going off in the ship, when he grabbed the ship and pulled it down and started like that. I could see where he's so enraged, and then people were saying, how do you not notice the second ship behind it? But if you're so gung-ho and focused and enraged, realizing you're duped, that'll knock you for a second. So that makes sense to me, seeing it, but I would have rather seen that kind of enragement chasing earlier.
Now I'm having a counter thinking about. I'm having kind of a counter thought to my thought. Okay, when he sees Obi-Wan for the first time, I'm thinking he ought to be full of rage, but is he so angry? He's like, I'm going to kind of savor this moment and just let it.
Maybe.
So okay, I guess I can see that.
Yeah.
See, sometimes when you talk about things, you start thinking about things.
Yeah, I guess so. I feel
like I needed the rage there.
Yeah, it just seemed more in line, but I could also see both perspectives.
Yeah.
I can.
He could have we was talking about Obi-Wan just kind of getting the heck out of there. He could have walked by that door to that building that Obi-Wan was hiding in. Sensed Obi-Wan and just reached out the Force and just shredded that door or the front of that building and walked in there. And then, instead of Reva discovering what that was, that he discovered what it was and, kind of went from there.
Yeah, so. that would have been good. And you saying that Obi-Wan realizing it was Anakin at the end, I think that'd be impactful. The way I was thinking of it before you mentioned that, I like yours better. But I thought of another way that they could have approached that. It didn't sit right with me when Reva told him about it. I think that should have been saved for a bigger reveal.
Yeah, that just felt so flat. Yeah, I didn't like that.
But even in that village, if they had it where Obi-Wan was escaping and they didn't have that initial duel in contact, I would have loved it because at that point Obi-Wan's cut off from the Force. He's not nearly the Jedi that he once was. But these two were so connected together. They were brothers. So when Vader was walking by and came near to that building that Obi-Wan was hiding out, Vader could sense him, and I would like to think that would have been strong enough that even though Obi-Wan's not connected to the Force in the way he once was, he could get that familiar, I know who this is.
Okay, yeah.
And that could have even scared him even further,
right?
And
then him not for sure, but thinking, kind of think that they did that with Ahsoka and Rebels.
Yeah.
She kind of realized, was that Anakin? And then she kind of had to come to grips with that was Anakin. Yeah,
so. That just these different ways I think could have been a different way to approach it. I think.
Yeah.
But different perspectives on writing, I guess. But
yeah.
It's always fun to fantasize, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Do you feel like sometimes with Star Wars they feel like we put Darth Vader in it, be happy, and they don't?
I really do. Sometimes.
And some of the characters are like, well, here he is, aren't you happy? And they feel like the name is enough that they don't have to give very much substance to it just because it's Darth Vader. Be happy.
And that ideal of doing that bothers me so much because the reason we love the character is because of that they are larger than life. They have these stories. They have this the story that we cling to, and just to toss him in there for a namesake is it sullies it, and it's not nearly as enjoyable as we know it could be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I feel like that with a lot of things. It's got the Star Wars name on it, so obviously we should love it, and then they get mad when we criticize it, and it's like, well, what did you expect?
Yeah,
you know?
Give me the style, but I need some substance with this.
Exactly,
the style,
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be no Shakespeare thing, but at least give me some meat with it, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't just go from here to here to here and, like, just throw stuff in my face. Give me something tangible.
But yeah, like we said, overall, I feel like they've handled Vader well. I don't feel like they put him in stuff just to put him in stuff, but I feel like they put him in stuff and maybe didn't utilize them to the fullest like they could have.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree with that. I just had a thought. I realized I have another favorite scene that Darth Vader was in. Actually, we should talk about that. I don't know if we mentioned our favorite Darth Vader scene yet, but we should talk about that. But I already thought of one. At the end of the Lego spinoff of Revenge of the Brick, when he's at the end conducting the Stormtrooper Orchestra, I think is one of my favorite iterations and scenes of Darth Vader.
I have to admit, I haven't seen the Lego Star Wars videos or anything like that. I've not seen that. So
we've had it was on that DVD with the
oh my gosh! Now I remember. I forgot about it. Yeah, you're right. I remember. Okay, now that you okay. Now I remember.
They were playing the Imperial March and everything.
Yeah, I'm getting old. So yeah, now I do remember that now. So
that was one of my favorite scenes. But anyway, in a more real sense, it is really good. If you haven't seen it yet, it was before they did the actual official Lego spin-offs. So the animation's kind of janky, but it's called Revenge of the Brick.
Yeah,
and it was a fun Lego spin-off of, I think they just told the Revenge of the Sith story, but they kind of like just gave you the highlights and moved on. Very entertaining, very funny. We saw that was included in the disc set for that 2002 or 3 Clone Wars cartoon spin-off.
Okay,
I forget the director for that.
Tarsky, is it?
I think so, something like that. Which is a great series. Plenty of great series that we need to talk about on the show. So, onward from that, what is one of, I won't say your most favorite, but what is one of your most favorite scenes or iterations of Darth Vader that we have seen so far?
You know, it's hard to pick. Boy, you know, when we once saw Rogue One, and we kind of looked at each other when we thought something was going to happen. Then you see that red lightsaber light up, and he goes crazy through there. You know, that's really neat. But I'm going to go off on a little tangent or something.
Yeah, go for it.
So, I've heard criticism. How come Vader's all like that, and then you get to New Hope, how come he just didn't tear through there and kill everybody like he's going through the Rampage? Mm-hmm. I just assume that after the Tantive 4 gets away and they're chasing it down, that he probably had to go report to Palpatine what's going on. Because it's a pretty big deal. The rebels just stole the Death Star plans.
Absolutely.
So he's probably thinking, we've got this ship captured. They ain't going nowhere. I just send my troopers in there to clean it up.
Yeah.
And then he gets done reporting to the Emperor. Then he comes down there, all right, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And walks in there. That's how
Yeah, that's how I'd...
And that's always kind of bugged me, so I had to get that out there. But I think my favorite scene with Vader actually isn't an action scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the original trilogy is on Endor when they bring Luke to him.
Oh, yeah.
And that whole conversation between Luke and Vader, they're at that little Imperial base thing, and I love that. That's why I just love how it's handled and all, that whole thing. And that could be my favorite scene is Vader and Luke there on Endor.
That's a good scene. I really like that one. For me, I think I'm going to have to cling to, at this moment of time, that scene in Rogue One, because I remember just being like in awe of like the intensity of that scene, and like I felt so bad for those rebel fleet troopers. I'm like there. It's like, it's useless. It's hopeless. The door's shut behind you. You're done. You're dead.
Especially the one he puts the lightsaber through the door, and then it's like, yeah, that's Yeah, that was really neat.
And that gives me a whole different perspective for the troopers that were still there on the Tantive 4 while they were trying to escape. Be like, oh, we just avoided that. And then they get tracked or beamed in. They're like, no. I already saw what happened to those guys, and here they are.
Poor Bob.
Oh, man. But yeah, I'd say that for sure. I can think of another scene that I really liked was in Rebels when he was standing on that TIE fighter when it was making its descent. I know we talked about it for the Kenobi series. To circle back around, we would have loved to have seen that instead of him coming down on an Imperial shuttle for that final duel.
Yeah, it would have been neat to see his TIE fighter in live action again. They could have had him fly down, and that would have been a neat throwback to see that his TIE advanced again. Yeah, that would have been cool. Yeah, and his scene with Ahsoka and Rebels when they fight, I like that a lot. That's really good. Mm-hmm. So many good. Oh yeah. Good moments with him. It's it is hard to pick.
Yeah, I mean he's a well-handled character, so it's like whenever he's on the screen, it's going to be a good time.
I even liked a lot in Kenobi when they showed him coming out of the bacta tank and getting everything. Yeah, that was really neat too.
And that's one of my favorite dualities that I loved seeing was when. So I criticized why he was in the bacta tank because he was torched in that flame, but I loved that scene where he was in the bacta tank and Anakin was in the bacta tank, and there was that back and forth. Like I really enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. So that's we're gonna have to definitely do a pull apart on that show. At some point.
Well, you could. Going back, I said something about Vader just destroying that building he was in. Maybe Obi-Wan gets hurt in that, and they pull him out. Yeah, that Ned droid pulls him out of the rubble and stuff.
That would have been a good segue for that. So we could have kept that scene at least. So yeah,
we're gonna have to go through and call them like the Scruffy edits.
The Scruffy edits. Yes, I love that. We'll have our own iteration of the series and how we would have told it. All right. So I think we got. Anything else Darth Vader related I think we covered all of our topics that we kind of tossed around.
I can't think of anything. Just, thanks again to James Earl Jones.
Absolutely.
And, how he brought that character's voice to life and everything. And just a sad loss and just appreciate everything he did for the franchise.
Absolutely. If any of you viewers have any of your favorite Darth Vader moments that you want to share in the comments, please feel free to down below. Okay, so Darth Vader was our main topic for this episode. We got a couple things to touch on. Of course, Skeleton Crew is coming up here soon. It's in, I've already forgot the date.
December 3rd.
December, there it is. We got a new picture, which there might have been new stuff released by the time this episode airs, but the most current new thing that I thought was interesting and that you shared with me is the casting of Jaleel White for, I don't know if they gave us a name for the character.
They did, and I forgot it. But yeah, he's one of the pirates in that gang. So
I thought that was an interesting casting choice because whenever I see Jaleel White, I still think Urkel.
Right. Yeah. So I'm curious to see how he does that. I mean, if he blows up a starship in this and turns and goes, "Did I do that?" Or reaches in his bag when you want some cheese or something. But I'm kind of curious. That's to me it's an interesting. Yeah. I know he's done other stuff besides Urkel and stuff, but like you said, that's what you remember him as. I noticed he had a cover over. He had like a robotic thing over his eye or something.
Yes.
Maybe he's going to be one of those mods like in Book of Boba Fett or something.
If they bring back the mods, at least make them more interesting than what they were. I mean.
Well, we still got to see how they modded Cobb Vanth. They left us hanging with that.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, going back to Jaleel White, I'm curious to see. It could turn out to be really, really cool. So
yeah, I'm excited for the Skeleton Crew, which is kind of new for me to say that for Star Wars shows because I've been really hyped, but then I get myself to this peak, and then what's been released so far just hasn't satisfied that. So, I like the shows, but they leave me wanting or wishing it was something else.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'm looking forward to. I have no expectations for this show. I just, that's part of the problem with being a big fan is, like with the sequel trilogy, I had all that time growing up and stuff in my mind to tell myself how the story of Luke Han and Leia beyond the movies, we're young, we have those imaginations and stuff.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I already had it one way, and to see it another way, it makes it hard to gel it together, I guess. But yeah, I have no expectations for this show. I'm curious. I'm excited. I hope it's good. But
yeah, me too.
But
to cling off of what you just said with that, I wish writers would realize that when it comes to the Star Wars shows, is like the majority of their audience are longtime fans at this point. Of course, we get new fans all the time, which is great.
Right, need them. Yep.
We absolutely need them. But we, especially for the long-term fans, we've been indoctrinated with so many legends stories that have happened. We've had years to simmer on theories and what we thought would happen. When you want to tell us what actually happened or what's canon now, I feel like they need to do more to draw us into understanding why it is that it is. I feel like too many times they write a character a certain way, like Luke for the sequels, like completely threw my expectations of what Luke was going to be, and I personally, now, I'm still not convinced. So I wish they would have some kind of like lead up so that way I can understand and maybe even sympathize and be okay with how he turned up.
That's why I feel they need a animated series as good as Clone Wars and Rebels to fill in that gaps with Han, Luke, and Leia leading up to the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Another thing is, thinking on it now, if 7, 8, and 9 would have been 10, 11, and 12, and 7, 8, and 9 would have gave us this kind of the story, had all of them back together again, which is what everybody wanted.
Yeah, for sure.
It kind of showed Kylo fallen to the, been fallen, and Luke's spiral to how he became. If they would have done that, then maybe you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Then had like The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker be 7, 8, and 9. And then, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. And then in that 7, 8, 9, you could have even showed little glimpses of, little hints of Palpatine was back in the background. And
there's manipulation.
What's there something out there that seems familiar? What is it?
Yeah.
So
just a little bit more, just convincing, especially since we've all been thinking one way. Tell us your story, but tell us why. So that's just my thought with recent projects anyway, like that. So, all right, with the Skeleton Crew coming out soon, it's another show where we have no expectations for it. We're just excited to see what happens, what's the story that's told. How do you feel up until this point? We've watched the Disney Star Wars for long enough now. We've had plenty of projects that we've seen. When it comes to shows like The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, The Acolyte, Kenobi, all the other the Bad Batch, the Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, all that media that Disney's released, how do you think as a whole Disney is doing with the Star Wars IP? Do you think they've lost the message along the way, or do you think they're confused, or do you think they're doing okay, they're just not necessarily hitting it out of the park?
I think that's how I kind of feel. They're doing okay, but then sometimes they have some swings and the misses. I think the sequel trilogy was a swing and a miss. It's been talked about like crazy, but they should have had the story all planned out beforehand. Absolutely. Had one director for, I didn't Last Jedi. I didn't like the humor. Didn't seem Star Warsy to me, and some other things in it. But if that would have been a Star Wars standalone movie made, and the characters weren't legacy characters, you know what I'm saying? It would have been new characters. Well, I probably would have. That's okay. But how it treated, those core characters, just left a sour taste in my mouth. But then like when they brought Boba Fett back in The Mandalorian, how awesome he was in that episode, and then there was times. Sometimes I feel like they forget what direction they're going with the character. Because then in the Book of Boba Fett, there was times he was kind of that awesome tough guy bounty hunter. Yeah. Then sometimes he seemed like a totally different character on how he acted. I agree. And I think that maybe some of the problems with Acolyte too is with like Ocean May, they seemed one way. They're going this, and all of a sudden we're back. It's like, but what happened there? You know,
there's too many 180s, and we can't follow.
Yeah, it's almost like like I said, they forget where they're going with the character. You know, after I saw Boba Fett in that episode of Mandalorian, and then at the end of season 2 when they did the tease for the Book of Boba Fett when he kills Bib Fortuna, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see this. And I like the stuff with like the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
But some of the other stuff, it almost felt like, sometimes I felt like they was making them dumb, and Fennec Shand had to, like, hey, Knuckle, what do you do? You know, and I was like, how is he this way here and then this way over here?
It's just not consistent.
But that's another thing. I wish we get a second season of that, or at least have them show up in some of the Mandalorian stuff. We need some more of.
Absolutely.
Even, you know, he's a beloved character, so maybe somewhere in one of these standalone movies coming out or whatever, where it deals in the Mandalorian time period, do we see the death of Boba Fett?
That is true. That is true. I don't know.
And here I go, change this again. You know, Book of Boba Fett, that's how he escaped the Sarlacc scene. I was so disappointed in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just, you know, I remember the Legends book, how he got out of there and stuff, but to me it just seemed so easy to get out.
It did.
To me, I would have been all right with an episode, a whole episode showing him struggling to get out of there, and maybe having flashback memories when he's in there of, you know, with Django and stuff like that. But it just, I don't know, just that part kind of let me down. And then the convenient, where did that stormtrooper come from?
Yeah.
I mean, if they would have showed like a Imperial patrol going out, well, there's this huge explosion out here, and blaster fire investigating the, you know, what happened in Return of the Jedi, Jabba's sail barge and stuff. Yeah. And then one of them got too close or something. But just all of a sudden, you got this random, really clean white stormtrooper armor.
Yeah.
If you needed the oxygen, you know, from the helmet to light his fire, there's plenty of helmeted guys in Jabba's palace. You could have threw a little Easter egg in there and had it been one of them. So,
yeah.
All right, here, I keep going off on tangents. So.
No, but I mean, it's like consistent stuff. Yeah. But like, it all comes back to, like, I agree with you. I think Disney, so far with the Star Wars IP, they've done good, but it could be so much more. And I think that's what us long-term fans are just wanting to see. Like, consistency and better, because what we said in the last episode, when they hit it out of the park, it's gone. It's soared. Yep. But I feel like too many times now we're seeing them come up to the plate and it's just foul ball after foul ball that they keep sending off, and we're just waiting for another grand slam.
Those foul balls that look like they're going to be homers, and at the last minute they just kind of curve off. But yeah.
Well, who knows? Maybe they'll get it figured out. You know, maybe we're on a turn. You know, there's always that hope, you know. Star Wars is rebellions are built on hope.
Right,
you know?
Yeah, and nobody's perfect. You learn, you know. There's other franchises and stuff that had
for sure
had movies or series or whatever that just weren't what everybody's expecting. I mean, you can't please everybody.
No,
so
absolutely not.
I know some that, you know, agree to disagree. Everybody likes what they like. I know there's some people, Star Wars fans, that some of the stuff, like I said, we've talked about before. The stuff I don't like or care for, that's their cup of tea, and that's great.
I'm glad
they enjoy it. I'm glad it's there for them.
Yeah, I mean, we're all allowed to criticize and give our own opinions, but at the end of the day, you know, it's something for everyone, and what doesn't agree with me might agree with you, and you know, we can talk about it, but that's it. You know, just be like, this is why it doesn't. This is why it does. Great, awesome.
It's a hobby. Have fun discussion about it. You know, just.
Yeah, and I think that's...
Nobody needs to turn to the dark side over it.
Not at all. Not at all. We all stay on the path of the light.
Maybe we can all sit down and have a game of Sabbath. And...
have a good time. Have a good old time. Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap things up for this episode. If you liked it, please show us by liking it down below. And please consider subscribing to continue on with the discussion and to be notified whenever we make new episodes. And be sure to check us out on Instagram at TSLP or the Scruffy-Looking Podcast. And until next time, may the Force be with you.